Are you getting enough new patients? It's Paul, Dr. Nacho here on Talking Nachos, where we feature our amazing sponsors, sharing how they help us do three things. One, increase success. Two, decrease stress. And three, most of all, reduce the number of times we feel like crying inside. I have the pleasure of talking to someone who I've known for a long time, sponsor of our group. But would you please introduce yourself to our community for those who don't know you and share what you do to help dentists?
Thank you, Dr. Goodman. I'm Grace Rizza, CEO and founder of Identity Dental Marketing, and we offer custom dental marketing plans inclusive of websites, SEO, Google Ads, social media marketing. But really, the goal here is to provide exactly what you need, no more and no less.
I love that because marketing should be talked more about in dental school, Grace, because it brings us what we want, the patients that we can help smile, patients for patient-centered production, but it can be confusing. And us dentists, if we cannot see or touch it like loops or a CBCT, we think it's some weird magic. So if you're just kind of talking broad picture to practice owners in this group at any age or stage, what are some things you think they should know about marketing to be successful?
I love making it tangible. I would say that there's actually three buckets of marketing. There's your foundational marketing, like your website and your brand, which is just legitimizing your business and making you someone that people can see actually exists. And then there's lead generation. This is where dentists tend to get stuck and don't always surpass that lead generation bucket. This is your SEO, your Google Ads, when you're getting in front of people right when they're looking for you, and your goal is to see more new patients from that initiative. And the third bucket that is often overlooked, but very important when it comes to getting the right types of patients or even marketing a fee for service practice would be more of your brand building or your reputation building bucket. This is your video content on social media. This is when you push a message out to your community, when you educate them and you build your reputation intentionally. So we like to have our hands in all three buckets. And I would say it's important to understand how different marketing methods actually work to move the needle for your practice growth.
I absolutely love that because you've shared it with ultimate clarity. That's my theme of 2025 for everything I do, including my own family. We need to have ultimate clarity on our calendar, our schedule, and I don't think dentists have ever totally thought about it that way. I have a fee-for-service friend who proudly says, most of my patients come through word of mouth. And I actually personally refer him patients because I don't have a practice in Philadelphia. And I was in my building and a new couple was there and said, who would you go to as a dentist? And I said, oh, Dr. Todd Fleischman. And he said, oh, I saw his reviews online. I saw people checking him out. So even when you think everything comes through word of mouth, the heard about it factor, your reputation, people, developing it is so important. So what I want to talk about next, Grace, and you know it well, is we help a lot of, we just bought a practice. We just became a practice owner. There's a huge excitement and overwhelm factor. I describe it, a practice, like having a 4-year-old child that never grows up, 50% awesome, 50% annoying, 100% exhausting. So let's just talk about an acquisition. Someone buys a practice, owner says, I kind of have this website. I don't know if it's even usable. And then they come to you for one of your complimentary marketing planning sessions. What are you guys going to talk about? What are they going to learn?
I love that meeting because in that meeting, I'm going to analyze their exact situation. Every acquisition is different. You might be inheriting something that is very run down and we need to revive it and we need to give it a new look and a new feel in order to attract more new patients. Or you might be inheriting something that's already a well-respected, well-oiled machine and we are looking to perhaps accelerate or maybe target a very specific type of new patient to add to the practice. So the very first thing that we do is analyze and ask the right questions so that we can understand the goals. And then from there, put together a very detailed plan as to how we're going to get from point A to point B.
I think that's so key because, when you take over a practice, there's so many moving parts and pieces that you have to manage from the legacy of the previous practice owner. And some of that is awesome, like the trust the patients have in that building. And some of that can be very frustrating because many times, I just say, many times people sell a practice and they are so ready to go, Grace. They're just like basically, here's the keys to my practice and move across the country. And they don't do it with any malice, but you're not always able to even understand what they fully did with their market. I love that. Now let's try to change it to this, the startup practice owner. Now they're starting literally from scratch, like Nachos from scratch. What are they going to be talking to you about if this is going to be their very first website, their very first marketing plan?
So, similarly, I'm going to be analyzing their needs. When we're talking about building a brand and creating a position for that brand, we need to make sure that this new business lives in the intersection of three places. I always say that in order for a business to be successful, there are three necessary components. One is you have to really enjoy what you're doing. So, are you building a brand around the type of dentistry that you enjoy? You have to be good at it. Some people come in and they want to do all on X cases, but they're not even clinically ready to do that. So, and the third thing is there has to be a demand in your market for the brand that you're building. So, success lives in those three places. Really, the times that I've seen people in my last 17 years of doing this, the time that I've seen people struggle is when they are trying to build a certain type of practice in a market where there's very low demand for that type
Yeah.
of practice. So I help them analyze and set realistic expectations for their marketing and for their business positioning, based on their individual circumstances. And I think that's key. It's really hard to paint with broad strokes here because every situation is truly, truly different. You could have a startup that's going to maintain a full-time associate position somewhere else, and they're just barely dipping their toes in. And we have to analyze, is this realistic? And that's always a fun conversation.
I love that. I mean, my next kind of topic I want to ask you about is I live in Philadelphia, Center City, and two of the best coffee places I think on earth, right? But are on the same street. And I go to both of them because I love coffee. But if someone else wanted to open up on that street, they probably would have to understand the competition. And maybe they find out that it's a perfect place to open up a third coffee shop. Or maybe they say, these two coffee shops have cornered the market. So just if we take this to dentistry, just in a few pearls or just why is understanding your competition important? Not necessarily to beat them or have them go out of business, but I know in part of your strategy sessions, you talk to practice owners about understanding their competition. Tell us a little more about that.
The level of competition in a market dictates how much you have to spend to get any sort of return on investment.
Yeah.
And I always find it comical and frustrating when I see these big braggy posts about, I did my startup, I had hundreds of patients waiting to see me the day that I opened. Find out what I did for my marketing. I'm like, you're in rural wherever. You're the
Yeah.
only dentist for miles and miles and miles. Stop bragging and tell the whole truth.
Oh, yeah.
So it does take just a idea of what is it really going to take to compete in
Yeah.
this market to stand out. We don't need to know every single doctor and every single thing that they offer. I think dentists get sucked into this like over analyzing trap where then they never take a step forward. But I can tell very quickly, okay, you're in this level of competition, and if you don't spend at least X on ads, you're not going to see squat from this marketing initiative. So that's really the information dentists need, is that comparative data so that they can make wise decisions and have fair
I love
expectations.
comparative data to make wise decisions because I live in Center City, Philadelphia, and I've gone to amazing restaurants that have gone out of business. And you say, why did they go out of business? Their food was so good. But sometimes as the consumer, we just don't know, like you said, the market demand. And I think that's such a key point. Well, as we wrap up, well, I'm going to save the best for last. If you ask dentists, are they happy with the number of new patients they get? 95% are going to say, no, I am not happy. And I know that's a part of what you talk about these strategy sessions. Help us, just give us a little snapshot of what you and your clients or clients to be talk about when it comes to new patients, realistic goals, problems having them. I know this will be important for my audience to hear.
Absolutely. I could meet a dentist who is literally at capacity, and they call me and they're like, I don't have anywhere to put anyone for this many days, but I would love to see more cosmetic patients. I would
Yeah.
love to see more Invisalign patients. That marketing plan is going to look very different than someone who comes to me and says, I'm seeing 20 new patients a month, but I'm hiring an associate and I really need to be at 45 or 50. So it, again, it really just starts with knowing and being able to articulate your goals. And really quick, sometimes doctors don't want to talk openly and honestly about their goals because they think that they're unrealistic. So a lot of times I'll even say, if you could wave a wand and have
Yeah.
your ideal practice, what would it look like? And then it becomes a lot easier to talk about. So we always start there. And then just flow into, how does Google view you? What does the competition look like? And how are we going to get you from A to B?
I think it's awesome. I mean, I think we need more of this. I'm so glad you are supporting and sponsoring our community. People can text identity to 215-543-6454 to schedule a complimentary marketing strategy session with Grace. You can reach out to us at dentalnachos.com. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our community before we wrap up, Grace?
Thank you. This community has been amazing to me throughout the years. I'm so happy to be here, and I really appreciate the opportunity to connect.
I love that. Well, we couldn't do it without you guys, and I so appreciate it. Thanks for sharing with us today.
Thank you.